Hey everyone, Sean Smith here, and I wanted to put together a video. So I didn't have plans for this video. I did come up with a title, but no script, no outline. I want to create longer form content. My mentor is recommending it to me, and and he said just hit play and see what happens. So that's what's going to happen. I think it'll be really valuable because you'll get a lot of honesty and really good raw instinctual answers. So let's hop on in. So this one's called My Amazon PPC Evolution, and I just wanted to basically talk about how I got so good at PPC, because I think it'll help you get good at PPC, right? Because the process I went through, I think is valuable, just because at this moment in time, I'm considered, a lot of people consider me as a thought leader in the Amazon PPC space. And I went from, 5 years ago being a nobody, had no technical background, to being someone that thinks is real technical and good at what they do. And so I think that this evolution will help with your evolution. All right. Oops, kind of hit that there. So I would say that, I get on the phone call with a lot of people in the Amazon PPC space, and what they tell me, a lot of people say, hey Sean, like it sounds like you're really good at numbers. You like eat numbers and stuff like that. And I'm always really surprised, and I think it's a good thing, because people think that, I have this background, this technical background in math or software or something like that. But historically, I've never been that, I would say, like, I've always been smart. I've always been a smart person, even as a kid, but I was never like highly exceptional. Like, I did okay in grade school. I actually was doing really poorly in high school for the first 2 years. I mean, I did well in the last 2 years because I moved in with my aunt, but I was getting like C's and D's sophomore year. And then in college, I did good in terms of I did good academically, and I participated in stuff, but nothing technical, right? Like I didn't study engineering, I didn't study computers, I didn't study finance or anything. I studied nutrition and Spanish. And in nutrition and Spanish, we didn't do any data. Like I didn't even know what a pivot table was till I was like mid-20s. And so how is it that somebody who didn't even know what a pivot table was until they were like mid to late 20s is now someone that people are like, wow, you must have a strong technical background? And I think it's because I evolved fast, and I had to evolve fast, because if I didn't, I wouldn't survive. So I would say kind of like, for my Amazon PPC evolution, I would say kind of like phase one was, let me make sure we're up here. Phase one was market selection. So when I wanted to become an entrepreneur, a lot of people fail as entrepreneurs. Like most businesses fail, like all that stuff. I'm here today, I'm an entrepreneur. So how'd I do that? Well, I started just on Google learning more about internet businesses. I didn't go to brick and mortar. I didn't go offline. I focused on online. And, market selection. I don't know if it was because I was smart or something, or I got lucky, but, I originally started in e-commerce. And the reason I selected that market was because I saw this chart where it just showed these numbers just going up every year. Like e-commerce was growing really fast. I'd read these articles about how fast it was growing. And then I saw, similar results with Amazon, selling on Amazon. And so, I feel like I picked the right market right here. I picked the right market. And I got in on the Amazon early because, when I started in Amazon PPC, it did not have what it has now. I mean, I started way earlier than most people. And I think that was another advantage. So not only was the market growing, but it was small. It was an extremely small market. I didn't need a degree. I didn't need a certification. It was unregulated. It was a small market, unregulated, and so demand was like this, and supply was like super low, right? Like there wasn't much supply for the demand for like the PPC services. So I got in real early, and I think that really helped me establish my stuff, right? Because it wasn't saturated, people weren't, you know what I mean? So I got in on a small market, a very niche market early on, and it was high growth, and it's still growing. So I think in terms of Amazon PPC, market selection was really important. So picking the market that I was in. So, that's a skill set on its own. That's probably one of the best skill sets to have if you can. Number 2, let me use a different marker. I would say number 2 was pressure. So my Amazon PPC evolution was, I picked the right, I feel like I got really, I picked the right market, man. I don't know if it was luck or, skill or whatever, but, realizing this, I was like, whoa. Number 2, pressure. So pressure really forced me to become good. So what type of pressure was I experiencing at the time? Well, I had quit my job. I went to the unemployment office and I, applied for unemployment, and I got like a unemployment card in the mail. And, I didn't have a job, and I wanted to make this work. I had some savings, and, what I did was I took that card. I was going to go spend it, but I was like, nah, man, let's hold off. So what I did, I took that unemployment card, like you get like an employment check or whatever. It's like a debit card thing. And I basically put it on my desk, and I said to myself, Sean, don't use it until you really need it. Like, you have some savings, let's run through those, and then we'll do it. So that pressure, looking at my bank account go down, like early days, I wasn't making a lot. I had some coaching gigs, some clients, but I had no idea how to price my services, all that stuff. And so this pressure, I didn't have results, I was new to the market. So my bank account is going down, right? And I was living in an apartment, I didn't have like anything to fall back on or anything. So bank account going down. And so what happened was it really forced me to be super hungry. Like, I had to be, man. Like, it was like, dude, if I don't make money, like, I don't pay my bills. Dude, and I think this really benefited me in the marketplace. It pushed my brain to like certain limits that it maybe couldn't have reached if it didn't have this type of pressure. Now, I think that when it comes to pressure, you have to be careful. I think that I might have put myself under too much pressure, and I think it's a tough experience. It was really tough, and so you have to be careful with pressure. Too much pressure and you go past the edge. Not enough pressure, you don't perform. And so you've got to learn how to, manage that pressure. And so I think that really pushed me to become an innovator, because, dude, I had to do it to survive. And when survival is, your primary thing, you just start to innovate, that pressure. So I think pressure is what really drove it. And for a really long time, and I think it still drives it because I put that on myself all the time. So pressure is number 2. I might have to, yeah. So number 1, market selection. Number 2, pressure. Going ahead. Now let's get into, so how do you do this? Like, you want to select a market that's growing. I would say Amazon PPC is still a great market to be in. But you also want to be good at, understanding your market and seeing where it's going and stuff like that. And then number 2, pressure. How do you put more pressure on yourself a little bit? Like, do you have not enough pressure? Are you too comfortable? Do you have too much pressure? That is not good for you. So, that's something you have to decide for yourself. And, you want to oscillate those. So that was number 2. So number 3, it's going to be, number 3 is going to be like, I'll call this, we'll just call this campaign manager. So this is like campaign manager. This was early days. This was when I was using campaign manager. This was when I was kind of starting off. So when I was starting off, we'll just call this phase campaign manager, right? It'll contain more stuff, but I like to use the lingo. So we'll call this the campaign manager phase. So during this phase, early days, what I did that really helped me evolve was I had mentors, friends who were in the same space, mastermind, I was out there, and then like Google, like Google, Facebook, FB, which is just like knowledge. So, I utilized all of these. So back in my early days, I was like, I talked to mentors, talked to friends in the same space who were doing PPC, mastermind, Google, Facebook, and then time. Time was a big one. I didn't spend much time with anything other than PPC because I needed to survive. So, it just wasn't an option too much. I didn't spend time. I'd spent a lot of, most of my time here. That gave me the edge. And I just kind of, my whole life was this, It became my life. It had to. It was the only way to survive. And so during this time, I would, talk to people, stuff like that. And I even did like a workshop in Chicago, which is kind of where I started getting more getting my first clients. And in the early days, I felt like the reason I was able to get clients was because people really, I think people wanted to work with me because I didn't have results, right? I hadn't worked with anyone. And honestly, back in those days, I didn't have that technical expertise that I have now. I was just, dude, I didn't even know, I was not an Excel person. I didn't know any of this stuff. So early on, people kind of had to bet on me. They had to invest in me a little bit, which meant that, I couldn't charge, crazy high retainers because I couldn't provide those results, like good results. Like the more results you can get for someone, the more money that both of you can make. So, early on, it was people betting on me, but I used all these resources and tools. And, early days, it was all campaign manager. And I still really think people should learn campaign manager. Like, even if you're going to jump into being more technical quicker, like bulk files and stuff, I still think it's important to learn campaign manager. Like, I will say in my program, I have an Amazon PPC AMS training program. My program, we don't spend a lot of time in campaign manager. That's mainly because we're really focused on getting results for people as quickly as possible. But I think it's great to use campaign manager because it's continually evolving. Like for example, they used to not have they have this graph where you can look at data. They used to not have that at all. And so it's really evolving. There's way more other things too that's evolving. Like you can't create certain campaigns like sponsored display, to my knowledge, in a bulk file. So you have to do it in campaign manager. So I think campaign manager is important just to learn because you're going to need it for stuff. So I was happy that I learned Campaign Manager. I'm happy that I learned it. That's how I did. That's how I launched campaigns for clients. That's how I, added keywords. It's how I optimized bids. This was how I did it early days. This was where I got my feet wet. Was Campaign Manager, and but really, if you look at it, I used Campaign Manager, right? Because I had to add this is kind of what got results and stuff. But if it wasn't for all of this down here, I wouldn't have evolved as quickly as I needed to, because these people, when you get the right people around you, it takes a village, So when you get the right people around you and the right information, what happens is you learn how to do this better, quicker. And, when people like you, you start to get a reputation even if you don't have results. Business is not an isolated incident. Business is a very social activity. And so if you're providing value, not only for the people that your clients and stuff, but you're providing value for other people, you're always like, how can I give back? Then what happens is that there's the law of reciprocity, where people are going to speak highly about you. They're going to think of you when it comes to referrals. And when you go through a hard time, let's say you work with a client, you can't get him results, or maybe you messed up or something. If you have a good reputation for being a good person, it's going to be a lot easier to manage those issues, right? So, this is what I did in the beginning with the Campaign Manager, but these are kind of how the evolution came through, right? So really look at this, right? If you're doing PPC, think about how you can use these things. If you're doing it for your business, for someone else's business, think about how you can leverage these things. And then obviously, brain. I'll just put brain here. I use my brain. So when I would optimize things and I would make changes, I just was like, how do I get results? And I really, early on, one thing, I made sure that my business was about the people and getting results for them. So, if my client was like, hey, Sean, we're not getting results, I would try everything in my power to figure it out, no matter what. Even if I didn't know what I was doing, I was like, I got to do something. And that's what I did. So Campaign Manager, number 4, we're going to do Bulk+Software 1. So I'm just going to call this Bulk+Software 1. So this would be phase 1 of Bulk and Software. So early on, I actually remember the Saturday that I did this. So, when I decided to pursue bulk files, nobody was really using them, and people didn't see the value. People would be like, hey, we don't use bulk. They felt like they didn't need them. People told me that. But I sat down on a Saturday, and me being curious about everything, I clicked over to the bulk file section. I wanted to learn everything I could. And I started looking into it, right? What could you do with these things? I started reading about it. And as soon as I started reading about it, I said to myself, I got to figure this out, because this sounds like it has a lot of potential for making my life a lot easier and increasing my value that I can give to my clients and to myself. So the reason it's phase 1 is because this was the early days. Now software, I use this was way back in the day, guys. This was the early days of Amazon PPC. During that time, there was only one software, one analytics software, was PPC Scope. So I used that for analytics at the time, and bulk files I learned on my own. Now this is what I call very hard. The reason bulk files was so hard, and even when we've talked to 300 or 350 or so Amazon sellers, consultants, and agencies, and a lot of people are still using Campaign Manager. And I totally understand why it's so hard to switch. A couple reasons. Number 1, bulk files are pretty technical compared to Campaign Manager. And number two, when you're learning bulk files, you don't see the value that it can bring you in the beginning, right? Because with Campaign Manager, you know, it might take you like a few minutes to launch a campaign, right? But when you're learning bulk files and you have no clue what you're doing, you know, and you're trying to figure it out, it may take you an hour or two in the beginning to launch a campaign, right? Because, you know, you got to get it all figured out. And so it's so tempting to stay here because when you're used to it, and humans are creatures of habit, right? We, you know, when we get used to something, it's comfortable for us and it becomes very easy. And so what we do is we stay here. We stay here because it's comfortable. We know how to use it. Why would we go anywhere else, you know? But I just knew that, you know, this would make sense for me. And so that Saturday, I just sat down and I tried to learn bulk files. And I would tell you it was hard because in the beginning, I was not as good as I am now. And so, man, it would take me a long time to launch campaigns or like to make changes because, I mean, not all the time, but like when I had to troubleshoot errors, oh my gosh. In the beginning there was no content about this at all. Nothing. Like right now, like I built an Amazon PPC program. And in that program, we teach bulk files. So a lot of people, and I have templates, so a lot of people get shortcuts. But man, in the beginning, this, ridiculous. But I knew I needed to be done. And that's what I did. So I decided to invest the time and energy into getting better at this. And dude, I knew it would give me the edge. So this was phase 3 of the evolution, was Campaign Manager and kind of like that beginning piece, you know, setting those foundations. Number 4, bulk files. Now keep in mind, guys, now in this Amazon PPC Evolution video, why? Like now, you know, I teach people bulk files, but why did this help me stand out in the beginning? Because no one else was doing it and it had so much tremendous value. So when no one else is doing it, but it has tremendous value, and you know that it's going to, you know, have tremendous value, that's when you know you're onto something. Because nobody was doing this at the time, really. Not a lot of people. I mean, I don't want to say nobody, but it wasn't very common. So, and I did it because I saw the potential. All right. So, phase 4, phase 5. All right. So if you're looking to evolve, you know, switch over to bulk files and maybe some software. But I will tell you, it's important to learn bulk files. Here's why. Especially if you plan to sell on Amazon long term. Because bulk files are kind of like, they just make you smarter at Amazon advertising. You know, you become more technical, you understand certain things. It allows you to scale and it allows you to innovate at scale. That's why bulk files are so important. I think using software is fine as well. And, you know, software is getting better and stuff like that. But I really think bulk files are important to learn because when you increase your level of technical understanding, then if you decide to work, you know, with a software company, you're going to know what questions to ask. You're going to know what type of optimizations you're looking for, right? So it's going to make you smarter. So when you do decide to potentially make that leap, you know how to pick a software provider. So number 5, hold on. Let's see. So software, bulk plus software to. So 5th stage in Amazon PPC Evolution, bulk and software 2. And I'm going to kind of wrap up. After this, we'll wrap it up and conclude. So what is the second phase? So bulk second phase was just like ninja status, man. Just like, I don't know what to say. Beast mode, I guess you could say, as well. But this was when I just became really good, right? So if it took me 3 hours to launch 20 campaigns, or a long time to launch campaigns for products, I could do it in like a fraction of the time with a bulk file. And now, if I need to do something, I can do it with a bulk file just so quickly, and it just provides so much more value. And remember, guys, there's a concept called minimal input, maximal output. And really, if you run a business, or really if you do anything in life, that's, you're really trying to put in as little as possible and get the most out of it. And so that's what bulk file does, right? Like, it allows me to do minimal input with maximal output. So it not only increases efficiencies, but it makes me worth more because I'm more technically savvy, and because I can do things a lot quicker than everybody else. So that just increases my value exponentially. So this was when I know the errors. I've learned what the errors are. I know how to troubleshoot them pretty quickly. There aren't really many cases where I have issues. This is just where I know a lot. Now, software, these days, I was telling you before, back in the day, we only had one software. Now, there's so many softwares. So, software was something that I decided to build for myself. Why did I decide to invest in software? It's because it was out of necessity. So at the time, there was only analytics software for PPC at the time. So I wanted to build I didn't want to build an analytics platform because that was already out there and I was already using it. But there were no bid optimization softwares at the time. Remember, guys, this was a while ago. And so I decided to just solve a problem for myself. Maybe I could build a software that helps me with managing bids, And to this day, we don't have an analytics piece to our software because the original intention was bids. It's not analytics. So I did this out of just necessity, right? It was a hole in the market, right? I didn't build it for the sake of building it. I built it because there was a hole. So I wanted to fill that hole at the time. Now there's softwares that do everything, right? But when I started, not so much. And this just helped me scale things, made me a little smarter, stuff like that. And these are kind of where it's at. This was the Amazon PPC Evolution. Now, why did I do all of this? Why did this evolution happen like this? Because I needed to get, hold on. I needed to get the thing that mattered. Results. I needed to get results for my clients and the people that I worked with, right? So I needed results for them. If they don't get results, they're not going to work with me, continue to work with me. And then I needed to get results for myself. I needed to grow financially and hit my financial goals. So when you're in business, you are in the business of serving others, but you're also in the business of hitting your goals. And so, you have to do both. You can't just do one. Now, over that time period, and I think that's what made me kind of a thought leader. I got in early, and I just put in a lot of time and energy, and I just, I made sure that I put people first, and I made sure that I put my heart into it and was vulnerable and things like that. Those are kind of the softer pieces to it, but those lead to evolution. So that's how I went from being, completely non-technical to people thinking that I have a technical background when I don't whatsoever. I mean, dude, I'm not advanced at math at all. And I feel like, people who don't have technical backgrounds get really intimidated by math. But math is just another language. It's like learning a different language. That's all it is, man, because numbers tell a story, and they do it with their language. So, it all boils down to results, and how I got those results was through everything that was above. Yeah. Now, these days, the market's different than it used to be. Early on, it was a lot easier because there weren't as many people. Now, there's so many people. Like, I was in a group of consultants, like a Facebook group that only had like 10 people. Now, we limit the group, but we have so many people requesting to be in the group because it's just becoming way more and more popular. Does that make it harder? I actually don't know the answer to that question. But I will say that the reason I got so far is because I think I really differentiated myself. I think in my mind I always wanted to purposely differentiate myself. I'm the bulk files guy. I'm the guy who will teach you the bulk files, and there aren't a lot of those out there. And that's something that a lot of people don't really, think about too much. So, and that gets results, and I just started getting results for people, and it was good. Where are we going? It's more software and stuff like that. It's just going to keep growing, and I think there's going to be more people in it. But it's all about innovation within your market and being unique, being really unique. So thank you guys for watching the Amazon PPC Evolution. And if you guys are looking for, an advanced Amazon PPC training program that can teach bulk files, kind of like take this evolution and kind of fast track you to becoming really good really quickly with Amazon PPC, then head on over to ppcamsaccelerator.com, and there you can book a call with one of my team members, and they can get on a call and see if you guys would be a good fit. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will talk to you later.